Unlike most films we cover, Poltergeist wasn't inspired by just one person or event. Rather, it morphed into the film it became by multiple sources. As a result, this video is about what happened leading up to Poltergeist, as we intend to cover the paranormal events the film was based on, as well as the script from another movie that was inevitably morphed into the Poltergeist project. So in this video, we will not even get to the hiring of director Tobe Hooper or how the first version of the Poltergeist script came to be. Rather, we will cover what caused Poltergeist to form. So buckle up. This is going to be the most in-depth and thorough series on the internet of the movie Poltergeist. The actual germ of this film started with a young Steven Spielberg. When he was young, Steven vigorously explored science fiction and would often use his storytelling abilities to scare the bejesus out of his sisters. However, he also had fears of his own.
Steven was afraid of a lot of things, and he was really, really frightened of clowns, and not only clowns, but trees. Steven was very much afraid of a particular tree that grew in our backyard, and this tree, when it would storm or there'd be wind, would scratch on his window, and he was just deathly afraid of this tree.
Steven loved the exploration of paranormal events, which is pretty evident from the many titles he's made during his career. And it was during his teens that young Steven heard about a real-life poltergeist happening in Seaford, New York during 1958. Now, it's theorized that the Herrmann Poltergeist began with the Pavonia Massacre that occurred on February 25th, 1643, where 120 men, women, and children were slaughtered by Dutch colonists not far from where the house would be built in the future. This violence would provoke a response from the Native American tribe, and violence erupted in the area, which eventually took the life of many settlers and Algonquin tribes. It was noted that a mass grave of Native Americans was lazily made, where the bodies were thrown at the brow of a hill, and it was reported that several soldiers would often eat casually by this horrid sight, not minding that hundreds of bodies were near them. 300 years later, a house would be built near this site. During the construction of the community, bodies would be found near the homes of the area. Eventually, a family known as the Herrmanns moved into this house, and the family began reporting that stuff in their home was moving by itself. After the family reported what they were seeing to the police, Duke University sent 2 parapsychologists to investigate the home. One stayed for a long period of time. The result of their investigation was a 45-page report that mentioned lamps falling to the floor, bottles popping their caps and spilling on the floor, strange sounds in the house, and other weird things. They published this report in June 1958 in the Journal of Parapsychology, and the debate began whether it was real or fraud. They investigated things like strange voices that came through the television, but it was debated whether a neighbor's ham radio was causing interference with the television, even though the neighbor professed he hadn't used his radio in years. They even brought in scientists to test if radioactivity and ground movements existed, which could explain the phenomenon. Everything was checked out, like electrical equipment, lab tests on bottles, which blew their caps. They even capped the chimney to test if air currents caused the phenomenon, but every test did not help the explanation. When no explanation could be found, they even investigated fraud, mainly the kids. The father of the family was known as a practical Marine veteran, and he demanded physical explanations for what was going on. And he even entertained for a short bit that his son was responsible. The son of the family, James, was interviewed so much that he eventually burst in tears over the grilling. Later, when lie detectors were requested, the parents refused, stating that they didn't want to subject their kids to any more interrogations. While all this was going on, the press was very interested, and news spread of this investigation. And this was not only a local news story, but it was in such periodicals as Time magazine, and even London reporters came to America to cover it. Now, the Herrmann Poltergeist is intriguing, but the film Poltergeist has a few similarities to it as well, as there's dead bodies under the house, a modern suburban haunting theme, voices coming through the television, a father that is very pragmatic, a married family with kids, and extensive studies with scientists and paranormal experts involved. So you can see how this incident is linked with the 1982 film. It was shortly after this reported poltergeist that Spielberg was making his own home movies at the age of 13. However, Steven was focused on making war films, westerns, and his UFO movie called Firelight, which would eventually become Close Encounters of the Third Kind. And we covered that film in our Close Encounters series, so check it out. This brings us to 1978. Close Encounters was a success and Columbia Pictures wanted a sequel, but at that time Steven didn't want to do sequels, as he had other stories he wanted to tell. Remember those times, moviegoers? Anyways, Spielberg began working on 1941, a film I adore, and I will cover someday, who knows when. But the director was worried that Columbia Pictures might try to force a sequel to Close Encounters like Universal had done with Jaws. And guess what? We covered Jaws and Jaws 2 on this channel as well. It's like I have a library or something. Anyways, Spielberg figured he should probably get involved, so they wouldn't make a sequel without him. So, Steven hired the legendary John Sayles to write the script. And this film would be based off another documented paranormal encounter that also occurred in the 1950s. At this point, you might be wondering, why are they covering the sequel to Close Encounters of the Third Kind when they're supposed to be talking about Poltergeist? Well, the story of Night Skies actually turned into Poltergeist. So we're going to go through the threads of Night Skies to get to Poltergeist. It's not uncommon that we get criticism on this channel stating that we don't get to points fast enough, as if we should fit into some dopamine 5-minute video format. We're not bothered by that. We want to explore these films in the greatest depth that we can, so if we go off the beaten path to cover what a movie became, we're going to do it without apologies. And I'm actually quite proud of our content because what we say and why we're saying is relevant to the videos that we do, even when we go off on tangents. Because I see these videos as a conversation more than I see them as documentaries. So let's take a look at the Hopkinsville Encounter. The Hopkinsville Encounter is one of the strangest and unique UFO encounters in history, and it occurred on August 21st, 1955, in Christian County, Hopkinsville, Kentucky. A group of a family and their friends, consisting of 5 adults and 7 children, were socializing when Billy Ray Taylor went out of the house to fetch some water out of a well in the backyard. He ran back to the house stating he saw a UFO land near them, but no one in the house believed him. An hour later, the family dog was constantly barking, so 2 folks went outside to investigate, and that is when they saw this, according to later reports and renderings. They said the body shimmered in the light like silver metal, and as it approached, it had its hands up like a gun was pointed at it. Since this thing had long talons and glowing yellow eyes, it didn't look passive though. The 2 men ran in the house, grabbed a shotgun and a rifle, and began firing at the approaching entity. When the bullets hit, they stated it sounded like a bullet hitting tin. When the being was hit, It simply flipped back and then scurried away into the darkness. Shortly after, another creature peeked inside the window and was shot at. In an attempt to take the offensive, one person opened the door, went outside, and those behind him saw a claw-like hand reach down from the roof to touch his hair from an overhang. The group screamed, and one man shot at the overhang, while another creature was shot at by a tree. The family barricaded themselves in the house, with kids hiding under a bed, while everyone listened intently to sounds like footsteps on the roof or scratches against the building. After a few hours of this, the family decided to make a run for it. They ran to their cars and drove high speed away from their home, heading straight to the Hopkinsville police station. The local police called for backup, and they were joined by the state police along with a few military police from Fort Campbell, Kentucky. When they arrived at the house, they found spent gun shells, but not much else. After the authorities finished their investigation, they left. The family was alone. Some slept armed and ready for trouble, and at around 2:30, the creatures returned. One family member woke up to a creature staring at her from her window with its clawed hand on the pane. The taunting would keep occurring through the rest of the night. The incident would not end until dawn, when the creatures would leave. Some assumed that they left because they didn't like bright light. There were suggestions that the family made it all up, as some of the people in the house were part of a traveling circus, but every person there related the same story, and that's very tough with different ages and so many witnesses. Some said the family was drinking, even though the mother of the house forbade alcohol, as she was very religious. Others tried to say they reacted to owls, which in itself is ridiculous. The Hopkinsville event is one of those strange UFO tales that comes off unusual, but it was widely known during the 50s and 60s. Spielberg would learn about this strange encounter in detail from J. Allen Hynek, who was the renowned ufologist who confabbed with Spielberg during Close Encounters of the Third Kind. So with this encounter in mind, John Sayles wrote the script. And this script would eventually turn into E.T. and branch off to create Poltergeist and Gremlins. This script is actually a roadmap for future Steven Spielberg films outside of Indiana Jones. The story is about a family. Tess, a teenager who gave up on her dreams to go to college so she could look after her younger autistic brother named Jaybird, who doesn't speak and is sometimes difficult to manage. Their family struggles emotionally. The father of the family, Ed, is overworked and hard on his children due to their difficult lives. Ed is distant with Jaybird and feels he should go to a state home, stating that Tess is throwing her life away to help him, and he also believes it's best for the boy. While the mother, Ruth, is a zealot Christian, her attitude is the Lord will send the family guidance to figure out what to do with Jaybird. Also living with the family is Graham, who is a typical Southern grandma. She is stern and set in her dated ways. Finally, there's Watts, Tessa's younger 16-year-old brother, who reads comic books in secret in the chicken house to avoid his parents, who scold him for liking such things. He's a UFO enthusiast who likes science fiction and wants to join the Air Force to get away. The community the family lives in discovers cattle mutilations. They are described graphically in the script, giving it a very rated R tone. Many in the town think it's Satanism or an attempt to force them off their land by scare tactics. When the Air Force arrives to investigate, it's revealed someone saw lights in the sky recently. The sheriff investigating the cattle mutilations has a son named Vaughn, who has romantic ties to Tess before he went to college. Now he's back from college for a break, and they are rekindling their romance. When the family is finally all together, they talk about the cattle mutilation situation. Then, the 16-year-old Watts is sent out to work on a fence alone on the range. His radio and the power lines near him change in tone, and he fiddles with the radio till it comes back on. Then he gets back to work. As we watch him continue to work, a shadow drifts in the background towards him from the distance. Then Watts is enveloped in darkness, and he looks up to see a red-tinged cloud that is parked over him. Watts runs for his truck, but in a longer shot we can see the cloud follows him at tree level, while the sky around the ship is perfectly clear. When Watts gets to his truck, a white beam shines on the vehicle, and he tries to start it, but it's dead. Then, in panic, he looks out the window to see absolutely nothing. The black-red cloud is gone. The sky is clear. Watt races home and excitedly tells everyone what he saw, but they don't believe him. His father claims he's just looking to make excuses to get out of work, and that his head is in the goddamn clouds. His mother's reaction is that Watts saw a sign from God, but Ed tells her not to start. Time passes and we see Watts and his father ranching while Tess plays the piano for an amazed Jaybird. Then the sheriff's son Vaughn arrives asking for Tess to go on a date. When on the date, Tess and Vaughn park in his car and have sex nearby it, and we know this is not a new event for them. What neither of the characters realize is that they are being watched by aliens that are not on screen. Rather, we peek their location through the eyes of aliens. The script suggests to have their POV like infrared or something of the like. Yet the aliens don't bother them. They just observe them, and Tess and Vaughn talk about her throwing her life away to care for Jaybird. Finally, after a time skip, Vaughn asks Tess if she was dating anyone, and we discover that Tess is very open about being sexual with others beside him. This frustrates Vaughn, but then the two see strange lights and decide to check it out. As they approach the site where the lights are, the car dies for no reason. Vaughn wants to take a closer look, so they go out on foot. Tess mentions that Watts saw a UFO, but Vaughn dismisses it. Before they get to the lights, a UFO rises up and disappears in the sky, and they can't process what they just saw. When gone, the trees in the area are still luminescent, and they see a man sitting in the middle of the clearing. The old man is not a resident of the area and has strange marks on his arms. They approach him, and when they engage him, he babbles on about devils. They try to talk to the man, but then a bright light shines in their faces, and it's the sheriff and his deputy investigating the area. Back at the house, Tess is dropped off and tells everyone about what they just saw. And in the excitement, the door is left open. Jaybird instinctually goes out the door. While outside, Jaybird walks towards some corn rows when lights shine on him from above. Jaybird responds to the alien lights by running in circles to imitate the lights. The ship studies him for a moment and then moves away. Then Jaybird walks back to the house excited, where everyone is still talking about finding the old man. Jaybird then starts turning on every electronic in the house, but then the lights and electric equipment flicker on and off. Ed grabs a flashlight, anticipating a brownout, while Ruth states they are receiving signs as the dog barks crazily outside. Tess picks up a phone and states the phones are out. Ed goes outside to deal with the breaker with his son. He is shocked by the breaker, while Watts is shining his flashlight around looking for the dog. Then all lights in the area die, barring the flashlights. Watts tells his father that their dog is gone and its rope is busted. Then there are sounds coming from the cattle pens. Ed, not taking any chances, grabs a shotgun. In the house, Jaybird is organizing marbles into geometric patterns in his room with a cat near him, and then the cat door slowly rises and stops halfway before stopping. Jaybird doesn't notice this, but then the flap drops down swinging. As the two men approach the cattle pens, something scurries away. Inside the pen, a cow is laying dead. Its eyeballs have been removed. Back in the house, Ruth is praying to the Lord at a shrine in her living room. As it cuts to Jaybird's bedroom, a long arm extends from the cat flap, and unhuman fingers take one of the marbles from Jaybird's pile. The autistic boy doesn't seem to notice this. Then the alien hand puts a silver-colored ring as if to trade for the marble. Then the cat door flap drops as the alien leaves. Jaybird notices this weird ring that seems to have the ability to spin by itself. Outside, the cows are spooked and gather by the house. The two men approach the herd, and suddenly a cow runs past them quickly, and it appears something is on its back like a jockey, but they don't get a solid look at what that jockey is. Then there is a sound behind them, and when they turn, they see a pair of glowing eyes. Ed does not hesitate and fires, but he misses whatever it was. Yet the cattle do not react or flee from the loud noise of the gun. It's like they are drugged or hypnotized. Meanwhile, in Jaybird's room, two alien hands appear on an open windowsill, as if preparing to enter Jaybird's room. In the living room, Ruth looks towards a window when she sees an alien form outside. She screams as the alien disappears from sight. No one else sees it, and Ruth claims that God's messengers have come. Meanwhile, in Jaybird's room, he is finger painting with blue paint, and across from him sits an alien calmly. The alien is named Buddy, and it stares at the autistic child, who calmly raises his paint-covered fingers and touches the face of the creature, leaving blue streaks. In response to this, the alien dips its finger in some paints and proceeds to start drawing on a sheet of paper in front of it. When Ed and Watt arrive to the living room, it's very dark and the candles are flickering. Ruth says she saw a demon, and they look around and discover an alien staring at them from a closed window. Ed does not hesitate to fire. The window shatters, but he hits nothing, and there is no sign of the creature. Watt walks to the door to see if anything is outside, and when he opens it, an alien is standing right there staring back at him. Watt jumps back, stunned, and once again, Ed fires at the ET, but the creature ducks away instantly. Ed in turn locks the door and demands that someone get Jaybird in the room with them. Tess runs into the room to see Buddy the alien sitting on the floor like a regular pal playing with Jaybird. She screams and the alien jets out of the window quickly. Tess slams the window and locks it. She then takes Jaybird into the living room. A few minutes pass and they hear nothing. Then a bright light shines for a moment and a voice calls for Ed. Ed slowly approaches the door with his gun ready, and slowly it opens to reveal the sheriff, deputy, and his son Vaughn. With them is the old man they found, still stunned, as the sheriff hasn't had time to take him back to the station. He states he heard gunshots and is here to check out what's going on. The family states there were creatures in the area, and they're all terrified. The sheriff doesn't know how to respond. Then suddenly, all lights and electronics turn on in the house. The sheriff looks around, and they can find no traces of the aliens. Tess draws a picture of an alien to show to Vaughn, and the old man sees it and freaks. He starts screaming that it's the angel of death. Later, the sheriff leaves, intending to call the Air Force. He takes the picture Tess made, and Ed asks to keep everything quiet, as this is something they don't want attention for. Then the visitors leave. After some time, Tess tucks Jaybird into bed, while the family is in the living room discussing what to say about this night. Watt agrees to say nothing. Tess agrees. Granny says she saw crazy people, nothing more, while Ruth says it was like a dream. Watt and Ed decide to secure the outside together. To calm down, Tess takes a bath, while Ruth watches an evangelist on television. After a short bit, the television picture is distorted. Ruth goes to adjust the TV when an ET hand slaps its palm flat on the television screen, as if to stop her from messing with it. Ruth is mute in fear. In the kitchen, Granny is cleaning up, and when she opens a pantry door, she sees a red-tinged alien, which is the same one that was jockeying cows earlier. It is standing there eating uncooked spaghetti. She grabs a broom and swings at the alien. It grabs hold of the broom straw, and she fails to shake the creature off, as it seems entertained by the antics. In the living room, Ruth is sitting calmly with the alien standing opposite her. It is staring at her. She seems to be in communication with the creature while in a trance, and she is answering questions distantly, a lot like this scene.
Yes. Yes.
Upstairs, Tess is humming in the bath, but then she notices blue finger streaks on the walls by a clothes hamper. She stares at the hamper as the lid rises, and the eyes of an alien gleam out at her. This alien is Buddy, the same alien that played with Jaybird. In the stable, Ed shines a light on an alien named Scar. I bet you can guess what future gremlin was based off this character. Scar is standing over a dead horse with its organs exposed. Its claws are covered in blood, and as it turns to Ed, its nails extend further. Before Ed fires at the alien, Scar looks at a nearby horse, as if mentally communicating with it, and it panics. It kicks Ed, who collapses from the blow, going unconscious. Back in the kitchen, the alien is still fighting with Granny, and it's trying to eat everything it can get its hands on, while Granny tries to swat it with a broom. In the chicken house, Watt encounters another alien, who levitates down from the rafters. It inspects his radio while he stands back, warning it to stay away. We then cut to Jaybird's room, where Scar's alien hand presses against his window, and its fingers glow, causing the window to melt like wax. Then the creature reaches in and unlocks the window. Back to the bathroom, Buddy is staring at Tess with blue paint across his face. He slowly climbs out, heading towards her. She sits there terrified. He goes over the toilet bowl, but when he accidentally causes it to flush, the alien is alarmed and runs out of the room in fear. In Jaybird's room, Scar is standing over the boy. The boy seems to have no fear. Curiously, the boy licks his fingers and then touches Scar's face. Scar reacts as if he's offended or in pain and begins running around in circles. Jaybird copies the alien and runs in circles too, while making the sound of a car engine. At this point, Tess opens the door and is stunned. She grabs Jaybird and leaves the room, slamming the door behind her. Outside, Watt helps his father up, who's a little worse for wear. Then Scar makes a clacking sound outside the house, and all the aliens immediately respond to his summons, leaving whoever they're bothering. The only one that doesn't respond is Buddy, who sits at the top of the steps inside the house and stares down. It appears Buddy doesn't want to join the others in their antics. The family then get together and barricade themselves into the kitchen. Dishwashers are put against doors to bar entry, and Ed and Watt work together, barring up any window they can. Ruth states the alien spoke in her mind, stating, "He said we were being warned that things were out of hand, and something awful would happen if we didn't act better." Then the aliens begin scratching on doors to the kitchen, seemingly taunting the family, while Buddy, not interested in tormenting them, remains sitting at the top of the stairs, watching his peers. Then Buddy stands up and walks into Watts's room, where the teenager worked on electric radios. Buddy decides to make his own radio, and his hands move super fast as he puts together parts onto radios. When he's finished, a red light begins flashing, and something is being transmitted somewhere. Locked in the kitchen, the family waits, and they discover that the aliens tried to freeze their cat by putting it in the freezer, but it's defrosted by now due to lack of power. After some tense waiting, tentacles burst through the windows and kitchen. One zaps Ed. When the tentacles recede from the house, a gap in the door leads outside. Everyone panics when Jaybird runs out towards the light of the alien ship that seems to be moving away. The family can't catch up to Jaybird. Watts is told to get on one of the horses and get some help, while Ed runs after Jaybird. Tess has an idea and asks the ladies to help her push her piano to the front yard. While all this goes on, there is a cut to Watts's room, where a radio is still sending a signal somewhere. Then a disturbing scene occurs where Jaybird is laying on the ground while 4 bad aliens are standing around him. They seem to be doing a ritual, and one alien pushes a long talon out of its middle finger and carves a round circle on Jaybird's forehead and chest just above his heart. It appears they're about to perform another mutilation, but this time on a human. Just before Scar is about to kill Jaybird, Buddy arrives, knocking Scar's hand away, and they spar off. The other aliens do nothing but watch the duel. Piano playing can be heard in the distance, but the aliens don't notice. But Jaybird notices his sister playing, and he quickly moves off to her. Things turn sour for Buddy, who has to flee the melee. There are cuts on Buddy's face, and black blood can be seen. The other aliens chase after Buddy. Meanwhile, Ed finds Jaybird and brings him back to the house. Watts then returns in time to see a ship approaching the yard of the house, with lights everywhere. 2 aliens can be seen advancing towards the family, but they move into a tractor shed for some shelter. The piano is smashed by something, and Watts says the aliens won't stop till they get them and take them to outer space. All seems lost as the family huddle in a little shed. Two aliens get in, and with glowing eyes they approach the family menacingly. The creatures then stop dead and look alarmed as something loud lands nearby. Its light shines through the tractor shed the family hides in. It turns out to be another alien ship, and Jaybird seems to know what it is. The little boy rushes out of the shed and runs straight to the ship, where a tall, willowy alien is. It does not menace the boy. Rather, when the boy gets to the alien, he turns to face the family that followed him and speaks for the alien via telepathy. He states, and I'm paraphrasing here, that the alien understands the family is in duress and that they are correcting it and it won't happen again. The alien also relays that Jaybird loves the family. Then the alien ship leaves before dawn. Sometime later, the family is shown fixing up the house while Jaybird is drawing in his room. Tess is packing a suitcase, intending to return to him as soon as she can. Ed then goes to Jaybird, takes his hand, and leads him towards his car as he's going into town. As they approach the car, Jaybird looks to the sky where a hawk is hunting. We then cut way out on the range where Buddy looks up to the sky seeing that same hawk. The camera pulls back from Buddy and it turns into an aerial shot where you see Buddy and the large area he is in. It is vast, thus suggesting that his story might not be over. Now, the script for Night Sky was very interesting and pretty cool, and Spielberg was already having Rick Baker design the aliens before the first draft of the script was done. Night Sky seemed destined to occur, but in our next video, we will go over how this screenplay was morphed into Poltergeist. But it's also true that this script later morphed into E.T. and Gremlins as well, which should be obvious. So with that said, we will see you next week for part 2. We also wanted to take a moment to point out a member of the channel who is about to release one of his movies to theaters starring Crispin Glover, Jake Horowitz, and Lucy Loken. His name is Paul Bennell, and his film is A Blind Bargain. Over our Poltergeist series, we want to support Paul and his independent film, so we will mention more about it up to the release of the movie in April in select theaters. And here is a sneak peek trailer of that film.
Growing old is not mandatory. We can be young, healthy, and happy.
Your mother's blood could be very valuable for Dr. Gruder's research.
So you want to buy her blood?
Amongst other things.
Where have you taken me?
To a place where your feet never touch the ground.
If you like what you see here, click like and subscribe. Super thanks helps, and so does sharing. We're really glad you were here. Thanks.